I supported my family for 15 years. When I needed help, they chose my sister. I thought for a long time about whether I should even write this. Partly because I feel ashamed. Partly because I don't want to sound like a victim. But the more time passes, the clearer it becomes. The problem was never me. I have a younger sister. Let's call her Alia. From childhood, there was an unspoken difference between us. Not obvious. Not openly cruel. But constant. She was promising. I was reliable. And over the years, that distinction defined everything. I was the one who could handle it. When my parents divorced, I was 17. I started working earlier than I planned because I wanted to help my mom. Alia was still studying. She needed to focus on her future. I paid for utilities, groceries, sometimes her courses. They told me, "You're strong. You can handle it." And I did. She got chance after chance. Alia's education was paid for. Then a second degree. Then a move to a bigger city. For growth. When things didn't work out for her, my parents sighed. "It's okay, she'll find herself." When I got tired, they said, "You chose to work." I never complained. And that was my biggest mistake. When everything changed. After 15 years of non-stop work, I broke. Nothing dramatic on the surface. Burnout. Health issues. Layoffs at work. For the first time, I asked for help. Not permanent money. Not to be rescued. Just time and support. That's when the family gathered for a serious conversation. The sentence I'll never forget. My mom said, "We have to think about Alia. She's at an important stage right now." I sat there listening as they explained why I'd have to manage on my own. Because I'm the older one. I've handled things before. Alia is more vulnerable. And suddenly I realized. To them, I wasn't a son. I was a resource. The moment I stopped being convenient. After that conversation, something in me finally broke. Not loudly. No hysterics. Just very clearly. I left my parents' apartment with the feeling that I had just learned a truth I'd known my whole life but refused to accept. I wasn't the pillar of the family. I was a function. I did what no one expected. I didn't say anything. No arguments. No explanations. No demands for fairness. I just stopped helping. Not dramatically. Not with announcements. Quietly. I stopped paying bills. Stopped covering temporary difficulties. Stopped answering calls that started with, "We have a problem." I said only one thing. "I can't right now. I need to focus on myself." The reaction was immediate. The first few days, silence. Then, confusion. Disbelief. Mild resentment. My mom said, "You've become cold." Alia wrote, "I thought you'd always be on my side." Interesting. Not, "How are you?" Not, "Are you okay?" But, "You let us down." When the resource runs out, so does the love. A week later came what I now call the loyalty test. They reminded me how much they'd done for me. How they raised me. That family doesn't keep score. Especially ironic coming from people who kept score, just not in my favor. Alia suddenly became sharp. She said, "You've changed. You used to be different." Yes. I used to be convenient. Manipulation became obvious. When the money didn't appear, emotions did. Tears. Accusations. Hints that I was selfish. They told me, "You're destroying the family." That was the first time I answered honestly. "No. I'm just no longer holding it up alone." The silence after that was louder than any shouting. The real reason they didn't want to say out loud. A few days later my mom let something slip. "We were counting on you holding on a bit longer." Not, "We believed in you." Not, "We're sorry." Counting on you. That was it. I was their backup plan. When you're no longer the ATM, Comparison started. Alia said. Things are harder for me right now than for you. Me. No stable job. Health problems. But she was in an important phase. I finally understood. My struggles had no emotional value because they were familiar. I'd always managed somehow. The turning point. One evening Alia texted. If you don't help now, I don't know how we'll keep talking. And something clicked. Because that wasn't a request. That was an ultimatum. I replied briefly. Then maybe we need a break. After that, she blocked me. My mom stopped calling. My father sent one message. I'm sorry it turned out this way. And that was it. What happened to me? You know what the scariest part was? Not loneliness. But how much easier it became to breathe. For the first time in years I wasn't waiting for calls. Wasn't thinking who else needed help. Didn't feel guilty for being exhausted. And yet one question kept gnawing at me. If I was family only when I gave, was I ever family at all? When the system failed. About a month passed. A month of silence that had never existed in my life before. No. Urgent. No. You can handle it. No hints that I owed someone just for existing. And that's when the system, the one that relied entirely on me, began to collapse. Reality catches up to those who let others carry it. I didn't hear it directly. My aunt messaged me cautiously, as if testing the ground. Is everything okay with you? Because Alia's having some difficulties. Turns out, her payments were delayed. Rent problems started. The temporary situation dragged on. And for the first time in years, no one filled the gap for her. When help becomes conditional, my mom reappeared. Not with an apology. Not with understanding. But with, maybe you could help, not for her, for me? Money for my sister, through my mother. So technically, not crossing boundaries. I sat there holding the phone, thinking how perfectly this captured everything. Not, we're sorry we used you. But, let's just work around the conflict. I replied. No. I'm no longer participating. The first real crack in my sister's image. A few days later, Alia called. Her first call since everything happened. Her voice was different. No superiority. No resentment. Tired. She started with, I didn't think it would be this hard. And this matters. Not, I was wrong. Not, I used you. But, I didn't think it would be hard without you. Very different things. The conversation that put everything in place. We talked for almost an hour. She said. She was scared. She wasn't used to being on her own. Everyone always said I was stronger. At one point I interrupted. You're confusing strength with endurance. Silence. I explained. I'm not strong. I just endured for a long time. And you turned that into my role. She cried. But you know what I felt? Not relief. Not joy. Final clarity. Why that still wasn't enough. She wanted everything to go back to how it was. I didn't. Because how it was meant I'd cover for her again. I'd stay silent again. I'd be noticed only when useful. I said, I'm willing to be your brother. But I'm not willing to be your plan B. That was the boundary. Who actually broke. After that conversation, she didn't call again. My mom became distant. The family split into, he could help, and, maybe enough is enough. And you know what? For the first time, I didn't try to convince anyone. Because I finally understood. If someone is angry that you're no longer sacrificing yourself, they're not interested in you. They're interested in access. What remained in the end? I didn't become a hero. I didn't become a villain, at least not to myself. And there was no dramatic ending. But I gained something more important. Silence without anxiety. Life without constant readiness to rescue. And the right to be inconvenient. The realization that came later. Family isn't people who say, "You owe us," and not people who disappear when you say, "I can't anymore." Family is those who stay when you stop being a resource. In my case, there were far fewer of them than I thought. And you know what? I made peace with that. Because for the first time in my life, I chose myself. And the world didn't collapse. Update: what happened after I said no? I didn't expect there to be more after everything. I thought I'd clearly drawn boundaries, and that would be the end. I was wrong. A few weeks later, my sister resurfaced, indirectly. Her boyfriend called me. We were never close. Just polite hellos at family gatherings. So the call itself was strange. He skipped the introduction. "I don't know what happened between you, but things are really hard. Maybe you could help, just temporarily?" That's when the puzzle fully came together. There was more than I knew. From him I learned. My sister had been living on credit for months. She assumed I'd step in like always. She'd promised expenses without having money. She never considered a scenario where I'd refuse. And that hurt the most. Not that she was struggling, but that my help was assumed as guaranteed. I asked directly. Did she ask me, or just assume I wouldn't say no? He was silent for a few seconds, then said, "She was sure you couldn't refuse." Honest. And brutal. The final attempt at pressure. After that call, my mom sent a long message. Not an apology. Not reflection. The classics. "You're the older one. You're stronger. Family doesn't do this." And the finale. "If something happens to her, you'll live with that." That would have broken me before. This time, no. I replied briefly. I already live with having been used for years. And I won't anymore. After that, silence. Complete. Final, how it actually ended. Several months passed. My sister didn't appear. My mom stayed distant. Family chats died. And you know what's strange? My life became simpler. What changed in me? I no longer check my phone with tension. Expect requests. Feel guilty for other people's decisions. I finally realized how much energy went not into helping, but into maintaining someone else's stability. And when I stopped, I understood. This wasn't help. It was a system. Do I regret it? No. I'm sad. Yes. I'm sorry it turned out this way. Yes. But I don't regret the decision. Because no family bond justifies constant disregard for your boundaries. Silent exploitation. Love conditional on usefulness. An important realization. I always thought that if I stopped helping, everything would collapse. But the truth is different. Only what relied entirely on me collapsed. And that says a lot. If you recognize yourself in this. If you're reliable. Always there. Able to endure. Ask yourself honestly. Do they see you as a person? Or just a function? Because once you stop being a function, real relationships either survive or disappear. It hurts. But it cleanses. Final line. I didn't destroy my family. I just stopped being its financial foundation. And when that foundation was removed, it turned out they never really tried to build me there as a person. And you know what? That was an ending. And a beginning.